Ferrari is in absolute turmoil. 18 years since their last Drivers' Championship, 17 since their last Constructors' title, and now the most famous team in Formula One finds itself standing on a collapsing foundation. No wins, 5 podiums, 1 lonely pole position, and a 15% drop in share value. It's a crisis that's shaking Maranello from the factory floor to the boardroom. And in the middle of that storm, one name has suddenly re-emerged: Christian Horner. Reports claim that Ferrari Chairman John Elkann is preparing to make a bold, almost desperate move to bring the man who built Red Bull's empire straight into Ferrari's burning headquarters. The same man who was once considered untouchable at Milton Keynes, and yet, after 2 decades and 14 world titles, 8 drivers and 6 constructors, was suddenly forced out of his throne. Now, with his severance package signed and his future wide open, Horner is once again in play, and Ferrari might be his next battlefield. For Ferrari, 2025 has been nothing short of humiliation. McLaren, Mercedes, and even Red Bull have left them behind. Fans have grown restless. Investors have lost patience. Inside the company, pressure is mounting on team principal Fred Vasseur, whose extended contract hasn't bought him any real security. The message from Maranello is clear: improve or make way. Vasseur's leadership started with promise, discipline, data, and calm. But Formula One is not a sport that rewards patience. The Italian giants are obsessed with victory, and when victory disappears, chaos follows. Ferrari's leadership has changed more times in the past decade than any other top team. And now, insiders say even Elkann, the man who pushed for stability, is questioning his own decision. Journalist Ralph Bach writes, Horner has 14 World Championship titles on his resume. Elkann is considered a very emotional guy who isn't interested in what he thought yesterday, but rather what he thinks today. They've extended Vasseur's contract, and yet his position is apparently already wobbling again. And that's where Horner comes in. The statement is explosive. It paints a picture of a chairman ready to change direction overnight, of a Ferrari desperate enough to court its old enemy. Imagine it, the architect of Red Bull's dominance walking through the red gates of Maranello, the prancing horse and the raging bull crossing paths in the most ironic twist Formula One could deliver. But this isn't just about management, it's about survival. Ferrari's brand isn't just a racing team, it's a global empire built on pride. When its stock falls 15%, it's not a financial dip, it's a signal that faith in the legend is fading. Investors have begun asking the question that fans have whispered for years: what happened to the winning Ferrari? Elkann and Ferrari CEO Benedetto Vigna know the weight of that question. At the company's Capital Markets Day, Elkann himself admitted the painful truth: we need to improve. Our goal was to win races. We achieved that with the 499p that won Le Mans 24 hours. But in Formula One, we need to improve. We must win because it's our duty to our loyal fans around the world. Those words were supposed to inspire confidence, but they only highlighted the contrast. Ferrari can win everywhere except where it matters most. Horner's potential arrival, then, is more than a managerial change. It's a declaration of war. After 2 decades of watching Red Bull's rise and Mercedes's dynasty, Ferrari's hierarchy appears ready to risk everything for a proven winner. The irony? Horner himself is coming off one of the darkest years of his career, a public exit from Red Bull after internal conflict and power struggles that tore the team apart from within. Still, that chaos hasn't diminished his reputation. In fact, it's made him more valuable, because if there's one thing Christian Horner knows better than anyone, it's how to build a winning structure from the ashes. He did it once with Red Bull, transforming a mid-grid team into a dynasty. For Ferrari, that's not a resume, that's a lifeline. Sources claim that Horner has already been in informal talks with multiple teams: Alpine, Haas, even whispers around Aston Martin. But none of those names carry the weight, the glory, or the pressure of Ferrari. The Italian outfit has always craved leadership with charisma, someone who can command both media and mechanics. Horner fits that image perfectly: sharp, strategic, and unapologetically ruthless. Inside Maranello, however, this move won't come without resistance. Vasseur still holds internal supporters, especially among the technical staff, who've spent years trying to fix the car's inconsistency. Replacing him would mean yet another reset. New management, new structure, new philosophy. Just when the 2026 regulation overhaul is around the corner, but Ferrari's board seems willing to gamble. Their thinking is simple. Better to rebuild under a proven general than drift under a captain losing control. The tension between stability and desperation defines Ferrari's identity today. One side argues for patience. The car is improving, the data is coming together, and the drivers, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, need consistency to perform. The other side looks at the empty trophy shelves and falling share price and says patience is a luxury Ferrari can't afford. If Elkann truly moves for Horner, it will mark Ferrari's most aggressive political play since the early Schumacher era. Back then, the team brought in Jean Todt, Ross Brawn, and Rory Byrne, outsiders who rebuilt Ferrari into an unstoppable machine. Could history be repeating itself? Could Christian Horner be the next foreign architect of Ferrari's redemption? No one in the paddock expected this twist. Horner's fall from Red Bull was dramatic enough, but to imagine him switching allegiance to Ferrari, the very team he's fought for 20 years, feels like the script of a Formula One thriller. Yet in a sport where loyalty lasts only as long as results, nothing is impossible. As of now, there's no official confirmation, just whispers, reports, and an undeniable sense of urgency. But in Formula One, that's how revolutions always begin. One rumor, one quiet phone call, one ambitious chairman deciding that tomorrow matters more than yesterday. Behind closed doors, Ferrari's executives are said to be running financial models, examining how a Horner-led team could reshape investor confidence. The logic is clear. If Horner joins, sponsors follow. If sponsors follow, money flows. And money, especially in F1's new cost cap era, means power. For Horner himself, the motivation might be even deeper. After being forced out of the empire he built, returning to the grid with Ferrari would be the ultimate redemption arc. To prove that his success wasn't built only on Red Bull's resources or Adrian Newey's genius, but on his own leadership, he's been quiet, publicly, offering only small hints about his plans. Sources claim he's seeking a swift return to the sport, and according to the reports, he has spoken to the majority of the teams on the grid. The tone is unmistakable. Horner doesn't intend to fade into the background. He's looking for his next throne. For fans, it would be the most dramatic storyline since Schumacher's comeback. For Ferrari, it could be the last throw of the dice before their legacy fades further into memory. The pressure on Elkann is now immense. Every decision he makes is being watched by fans, investors, and the entire Formula One community. The longer he hesitates, the weaker Ferrari looks. And that's the irony. Ferrari's desperation to look strong is what might push them into the riskiest decision of all. As the winter testing season approaches, rumors are expected to intensify. The sight of Christian Horner walking into the paddock wearing Ferrari red would send shockwaves through Formula One. It would mean war, political, financial, and sporting, on a level the grid hasn't seen in decades. Ferrari's fate now rests on whether they'll choose continuity or chaos. But in Maranello, chaos has always had a strange way of winning. Behind the scenes, whispers in Maranello suggest that the mood has shifted from frustration to outright panic. Senior engineers, once loyal to Fred Vasseur, are quietly polishing resumes. A few department heads have already taken calls from recruiters connected to other teams. The HR division has been told to prepare contingency scenarios, a coded phrase inside Ferrari for leadership transition. Italian media outlets are circling like vultures. Even the tone on social media has changed. Longtime tifosi are no longer debating car upgrades, but openly asking if Horner could really save them. Across Europe, rival team principals are watching with fascination. At Mercedes, whispers in the paddock call it the return of the old Ferrari, the version that implodes under pressure. At Red Bull, insiders describe Horner's potential defection as a cold knife in the back back of history. One senior engineer reportedly joked, if Christian walks into Maranello, the Red Bull garage will go silent. It's half humor, half dread. Financial analysts in Milan estimate that if Horner were confirmed, Ferrari's stock could rebound by as much as 8% in the first week. The board knows it, sponsors know it. And that's why Elkann's rumored approach feels less like a negotiation and more like a rescue mission. The deal isn't just about leadership, it's about credibility, both on the track and on Wall Street. But the politics are poisonous. To bring Horner in, Ferrari would have to push Vasseur out barely months after renewing his contract. Severance costs, public backlash, and the risk of legal disputes hover over every discussion. One insider reportedly said they've extended Vasseur's contract, and yet his position is already wobbling again. It's the perfect metaphor for Ferrari's current instability. Decisions made yesterday are already collapsing today. If Horner accepts, he inherits not only a struggling car, but a divided culture. Mechanics burned out by constant leadership changes. Engineers are afraid to innovate. Drivers skeptical of promises. Yet, ironically, that's the kind of battlefield Horner thrives in. Chaos sharpened into dominance. The last time he took control of a broken team, it became a dynasty. For the fans, hope and fear are merging. They dream of redemption. Horner walking into the paddock in Ferrari red, shaking hands with Leclerc and Hamilton, smiling that confident, calculating smile. But they also know Ferrari's history. Every resurrection comes at a cost. Politics have destroyed champions before. They could do it again. And so, the question that echoes through every corridor in Maranello tonight is simple yet haunting. Will Christian Horner be the savior who restores Ferrari's lost empire, or just the next victim swallowed by its endless cycle of ambition and failure?